Hi, my name is Daryl, and we're going to be talking about Chapter 5, the situational leadership approach. Situational approach to leadership. So, this chapter is concerned with flexibility in leadership. The overarching idea is that different situations demand different leadership, and this leadership is based on the followers that the leader encounters. While the other chapters before have been focused more on the leader themselves, as their traits, skills, and behaviors, this chapter introduces the concept that followers determine in part what type of leadership is imposed upon them. In that case, the leader must evaluate the followers that the leader has, and that determines the style the leader is going to use going forward. This chapter introduces directive behaviors and also supportive behaviors. Directive behaviors are more like you do this way at this time. This is a leader being a leader that tells you what to do, tells you where to go, and things of that nature. The other concept is supportive behaviors. That's more let's talk it out, giving praise when something is done well by the followers, and etc. is more of an emotional approach. And the author, he further classifies these by introducing levels of leadership in his model, the situational leadership model, too. And that's one of the big devices he uses to prove his points. And they're different levels, and each level has a specific name. The first one is for leaders. They break down the levels based on leaders and also the followers. The first one is S1. That's more of a high directive and low supportive. That is a leader that, as I mentioned, tells you what to do, tells you when to do it, and generally is supervising his employees. He doesn't do as much of the emotional praising and things like that. And that one's classified as the director. The second one is where you have high directive and high supportive behaviors. That's more of a coach, where you tell them what to do, but you're also looking for feedback and you're encouraging your followers. And in this one, the leader has to be very involved with the followers because he needs to look out for the cues and for praise and take direction, so to speak, from the followers. The third level is high support and low directive. That's more of a supporter, where the directions are not as clear. I mean, everyone agrees on a sort of path, but it's not rigid. They give you support to go through, like praising you and whatnot, but they don't give you much direction. And then the final level of leadership is the one that's low directive and low supportive. This is more of a delegator. You agree on the goal is to get this done, but the leader doesn't give you any direction, and also they don't give you support. This one is, I guess, more of a mature style of leadership where you expect the followers to do what they need to do to get things done without you having to be there to tell them exactly what to do and without having to reinforce them. Then another way that this leadership is more follower focused. For each level of leader, there's a one-to-one relationship with the type of follower, and based on the development of the follower. And he also has different levels for these, for 1 through 4, D1 through 4. First type of follower is one who's low in competence and high in commitment. These are newer employees per se, and they don't really know much. They don't have the skills, but they're really excited to learn. So, you can work with them. Then the second level is they have some competence, and they also have low commitment. They started to learn the best skills they need to get the job done. Then somewhere along the line, they got, jaded, and now their commitment is starting to wane. The third level is someone they have moderate to high commitment and moderate to high skill and a variable commitment. They have developed the skills for the job, but they are uncertain about completing the goals. So they have the skills, but they don't know how to go about completing the goals. And then the final one in the stages of development, and this scale ranges from developing to developed commitment and competence. The final one is an individual who's high in both competence and commitment. These are your seasoned employees. They have the skills and they know how to do the job. So this is another way that this approach is follower centric, because your leadership style is determined by the followers you have. And you have to ask questions to find out the level of your followers. Like, what kind of skills does this person have? Is this too complex? What are our goals? And once you get through that questionnaire, then you figure out which style you have to use. And as the chapter mentioned, these relationships have one-to-one. So if you have employees that are, high in competence and low in competence and high in, commitment, that's more of they will go with a L1 style leader who is high directive and low supportive, because these employees are already excited. So they don't necessarily need as much support, but they are willing to learn and they're ready to learn. And that's where that high directive comes in. And then as you go through the levels of development of the followers, the leadership styles follow. You have your seasoned employees at the end, the 4s and 4s. They're the ones that they need the least supervision because they have the skills and they also have the competency. And that leadership style follows because that one is low directive and low supportive behaviors. And the leaders, they adapt based on the model. And as I said, the model has the different styles. And then on the bottom of the model has the levels of development of followers. And that's on page 95 if you wanted to check out that chart. So, and as I said, the concrete things you need to know more about this chapter are the model, which is on page 95, and that's about the leader styles and the follower development levels. So a couple of examples. The book provides an example where if there's a guy who owns a gardening business, he has 3 different types of employees, and this is where that flexibility comes in. You have to direct your style has to be based on the type of employees you have. He has one employee who, she knows the business and, she's comfortable with most things and, she's not comfortable doing certain things. So he has one style with her. Then he has another employee who's new, doesn't know as much, but he's eager to learn. So he adopts this L1 style. Then he has another employee that is more of the middle ground, so he uses that, and that again goes back to the point where this chapter is a lot about the flexibility of the approach to leadership. Example that I could provide that's personal to my life is when I was in charge of training employees at a technical support center. We had new employees. I was in charge of like 8 employees, and as I went through, I started to ask questions, and I was able to evaluate that these employees are a little bit more technical, so they need less support. So I would stay away from their cubicles, so to speak, and I would stay more with the employees that they were like more towards the beginning development stage of followers. I would be there for them to ask me questions. I gave them directions, and I supported them. While I generally enjoy this topic, some criticisms I have are the same criticisms with most leadership. They don't really take into account gender, like, men prefer more directive approaches and women prefer more supportive. And also the amount of research that has been done in this area is not as great as the other one, so that can give some reasons to pause. But as I said, I'm a fan of this path. But the way to apply this to our real world, the field of teaching is a good example of this. Students and kindergartners, they start out with a lot of excitement, but lacking in skills, and they need teachers to be very directive, tell them what to do, tell them the goals. But as you go on, you gain more skills, but your interest wanes, and ultimately it results in college where you have the skills and you have the commitment. So the leaders delegate tasks to you, and they expect you to get things done on time and, generally just support yourself. So my questions for this topic are: look at the chart on page 95, select a leadership style, and then describe a leader that uses this style effectively. And then for the second question, think of yourself as a follower. which leadership style do you think will allow you to reach your full potential and why? Thank you guys for watching my video. Again, my name is Daryl. Have a great day.